From the 40 million deaths caused by Genghis Khan's horsemen across 2 continents, to the single bullet that ended the world's most wanted terrorist in Pakistan, and the 80,000 beating hearts ripped from living prisoners atop Aztec pyramids. This is the 12 deadliest military units in history. Genghis Khan's Mongol warriors. Genghis Khan commanded the Mongol armies of the 13th century, the greatest war machine of the Middle Ages. Mounted on sturdy steppe horses and armed with composite longbows, these nomads dominated from China to Eastern Europe. They used innovative tactics, feigned retreats followed by surprise sieges, lightning-fast cavalry that encircled enemies, and total war. Entire cities massacred or forced into immediate surrender. The Mongol campaigns killed approximately 40 million people. In 1258, during the fall of Baghdad, the Mongols exterminated up to 2 million inhabitants in just a few days. Cities surrendered without fighting, just hearing that the horde was approaching. But Mongol terror was calculated. Genghis Khan knew that cruelty served as a psychological weapon. Piled skulls, enemy chiefs wrapped alive in carpets and trampled to death. The legends of brutality travelled faster than the army itself, breaking the morale of the next targets before the attack even began. "I am the punishment of God," Genghis said. And indeed his warriors were the deadliest in history. The Assyrian army. Between 900 and 600 BC, the Assyrians dominated the Middle East with history's first permanent professional army. Originating from Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, they introduced mass iron weapons, heavy cavalry, and siege machines capable of bringing down ancient walls. But it wasn't just technology, it was deliberate brutality. The Assyrians spread panic by flaying captured enemies, alive and displaying their skins on the walls of rebel cities. Their commemorative inscriptions boasted King Sennacherib razed 89 fortified cities and 820 villages in a single campaign, deporting 208,000 prisoners at once. Mountains of heads and pillars of skulls were erected after each victory. But this cruelty had a strategic purpose. The psychological terror that preceded the army led many cities to surrender without a fight to avoid the horrific fate of those who resisted. The Assyrians destroyed temples, deported entire populations, and spared neither gods nor peoples. This was terror as military science. Alexander's Macedonian phalanx. In the 4th century BC, Alexander commanded the most feared unit of antiquity. The core was the Macedonian phalanx, heavy infantry armed with sarissas, spears 4 to 6 meters long that kept enemies at a lethal distance. Shoulder to shoulder, 16 rows advanced like a human porcupine, impaling everything ahead. Combined with elite cavalry, they used the hammer and anvil tactic. The phalanx fixed, and the cavalry massacred the flanks. Alexander defeated the gigantic Persian Empire in less than a decade. At Gaugamela, 331 BC, he faced a Persian army 5 times larger. Only 100 Macedonians died, while Persian losses reached tens of thousands. Alexander never lost a battle. In 8 years, he marched over 20,000 kilometers, conquering lands from Egypt to India. But the secret wasn't just tactical. Alexander inspired fanatical loyalty. Legend says that when they ran out of water in the desert, his men offered him what little they had. Alexander poured it on the ground to share his soldiers' thirst. This spirit made the phalanx practically invincible. Warriors who worshipped their leader as a demigod and never retreated a single step. Attila's Huns. In the 5th century, Attila led the Huns in a devastating wave over the collapsing Roman Empire. These steppe warriors mastered mounted archery, raining lethal arrows while galloping at high speed. Short in stature and fierce in appearance, they cut babies' cheeks to prevent beards and increase scars. They inspired terror in Romans and Germans alike. Under Attila, they devastated Central Europe. Entire cities were looted or burned, and populations were massacred without mercy. At the Battle of the Catalonian Plains, 451 AD, sources report up to 160,000 dead in a single day of combat. Attila exploited both psychological terror and speed. He appeared where least expected, and allegedly fed his army with blood from their own horses during forced marches. But there's a legend that sums up his impact. Where Attila's horse treads, grass never grows again. His methods included impalement and crucifixion of traitors. Attila died before seeing Rome fall, but for a moment his Huns brought civilized peoples to their knees, earning him apocalyptic epithets, the Order of Assassins. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, the Hashashins were a medieval Islamic assassin sect that terrorized crusaders, caliphs and sultans. Founded by Hassani Saba at the fortress of Alamut in Persia, they transformed political assassination into strategic art. Instead of armies, they employed infiltrated agents who eliminated key leaders with daggers, often in public, and before stunned guards. The word assassin derives from the name of this order. In nearly 200 years, they killed hundreds of high-value targets. 3 caliphs, numerous crusader generals, and the most famous case, Conrad of Montferrat, king of Jerusalem, stabbed by assassins disguised as monks in 1192. No fortress was safe. But even Saladin, the great sultan, had to negotiate. Legend says he only accepted peace with the assassins after waking up with a dagger stuck in the pillow beside his head, placed there secretly to demonstrate the sect's reach. Ninjas of feudal Japan. Between the 15th and 16th centuries, ninjas, or shinobi, were masters of espionage, sabotage, and assassination. Originating from clans like Iga and Koga, they worked as mercenaries hired by local lords during the civil wars. Wearing camouflaged clothing, they infiltrated enemy castles, poisoned wells, set fire to arsenals, and eliminated targets with surgical precision. Ninjas innovated the use of unconventional equipment, throwable metal stars, smoke bombs, and barrels of gunpowder to blow up gates. Their training from childhood involved martial arts, climbing, swimming, poison making, and resistance to torture. In 1570, ninja Sugatani Zenjubo ambushed warlord Oda Nobunaga with an arquebus. 2 shots from 20 meters. One grazed Nobunaga, the other killed his guard. But legend surpassed reality. People believed they possessed powers of invisibility and that they never drew their sword without it tasting blood under risk of dishonor. The truth is that their rigorous training and unconventional tactics created a lethal reputation far beyond official records. Nobunaga invaded Iga and massacred entire ninja communities in 1581. The Ottoman Janissaries. Between the 14th and 19th centuries, the Janissaries were the feared elite troops of the Ottoman sultans. Created through the Devshirme system, Christian boys from the Balkans, taken from their families, converted to Islam, and rigorously trained, they developed fanatical loyalty to the sultan. Recognized by their uniforms with tall white hats, they pioneered the large-scale use of firearms. They were on the front line of the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, breaching the Byzantine walls after a 53-day siege. The fall resulted in 4,000 dead and over 50,000 enslaved, marking the end of Eastern Rome. At Mohat in 1526, their musket volleys obliterated the Hungarian heavy cavalry in less than 2 hours, killing the king himself and about 20,000 enemy soldiers. But the Janissaries' power became their downfall. In the 19th century, they became restless and resistant to reforms. In 1826, Sultan Mahmud II decided to eliminate them in the auspicious incident. When they rebelled, the Sultan ordered artillery against their own barracks, massacring thousands of elite soldiers in a few hours. Ironically, the once invincible unit was annihilated by the same empire it had served, the Spanish conquistadors. In the 16th century, small bands of Spanish conquistadors annihilated entire empires in the New World. Armed with steel swords, arquebuses, and mounted on horses, technologies unknown to the Amerindians, adventurers like Hernan Cortés and Francisco Pizarro toppled the Aztec and Inca civilizations with incredibly inferior numbers. In 1519, Cortés landed in Mexico with 600 men. After 2 years of war, Tenochtitlan fell. Tens of thousands of Aztecs died in the final siege. Chroniclers speak of 100,000 corpses in the streets. In 1532, Pizarro ambushed Inca Emperor Atahualpa with 168 soldiers against thousands, massacring the Inca guard and imprisoning the emperor, whose empire of millions collapsed beheaded. But the deadliest ally was microscopic. Smallpox and measles decimated Amerindian populations without immunity. Between 1519 and 1600, Mexico saw its population plummet from 20 million to 2 million, a 90% drop. Cortés gazed upon Tenochtitlan, a metropolis larger than any European city, and in 2 years reduced it to smoking ruins. With less than 1% of the population, the Spanish dominated the remaining 99%. The Aztec Jaguar warriors. Between the 15th and 16th centuries, the Cuauhtémoc Jaguar warriors were the elite troops of the Aztec Empire. They wore jaguar skins and colourful ornaments, entering battle with an appearance as fierce as the feline. Their weapon was the macuahuitl, a wooden sword club with obsidian blades embedded in the edges. Spanish chroniclers recorded cases where an Aztec warrior beheaded a horse with a single blow. To ascend to Jaguar status, a warrior needed to capture at least 20 enemies in combat. This incentivized audacious bravery and bloody hand-to-hand combat. The captured prisoners ended up atop the pyramids, where priests ripped out their still-beating hearts. At the rededication of the Great Temple in 1487, the Aztecs allegedly sacrificed 80,400 captives in 4 days, an endless line climbing the 114 steps to death. But this pursuit of capture, instead of immediate kills, was exploited by the conquistadors, who had no scruples about killing at distance with arquebuses. Even so, during the sad night of 1520, the Jaguars inflicted heavy casualties on the Spanish retreating from Tenochtitlan. Imagine the shock of Cortez's soldiers seeing hundreds of warriors in jaguar skins emerge from the morning mist, roaring like felines and wielding obsidian swords capable of beheading horses. SHAKA'S, Zulu, IMPIS. In the early 19th century in southern Africa, one of the continent's most lethal forces emerged under King Shaka Zulu, the Zulu IMPIS. Shaka revolutionized warfare by replacing throwable spears with the Ikalwa, a short spear with a broad blade for close combat, and introducing larger shields. He organized warriors by age groups into permanent regiments, imposing Spartan discipline. Training was inhumane. Recruits ran barefoot up to 50 kilometers per day over thorny terrain to toughen feet and build endurance. Shaka tolerated no cowardice. He executed entire units that retreated. His buffalo horns tactic, center and two horns enveloping the enemy, was devastating. At the Battle of Isandlwana in 1879, 20,000 Zulus annihilated 1,300 well-armed British soldiers, one of the worst defeats inflicted on a European army by indigenous forces. The Gurkhas of Nepal, Nepalese soldiers who first served as adversaries and then as allies of the British army. Their motto says it all: better to die than be a coward. Originating from the Himalayan mountains, they brought centuries-old martial tradition and a symbolic weapon, the kukri, a curved machete with a wide blade. In battle, they earned a reputation as relentless, hand-to-hand combatants. During the World Wars, 250,000 Gurkhas fought for the British Empire, earning 26 Victoria Crosses for extreme courage. A notable story: soldier Lakhiman Gurung, Burma 1945, had his right hand mutilated by a grenade, but with one arm faced 200 Japanese soldiers, killing 31 and holding the position until dawn. In the Falklands 1982, Argentine soldiers surrendered, just learning that Gurkhas were approaching. But the kukri has the legend that once unsheathed, it must taste blood before returning to the sheath, something romanticized but illustrating the mysticism. The selection process is brutal. Thousands compete for hundreds of spots, facing exhausting physical tests. Since 1815, when the British, impressed after fighting them, decided to recruit them instead of facing them. The US Navy SEALs. In recent times, the Navy SEALs of the US Navy gained fame for nearly impossible missions. Trained to operate on sea, air, and land, they represent the pinnacle of unconventional warfare. There are only 2,500 active members, selected from tens of thousands through a brutal process with a 75 to 80% attrition rate. Only 1 in 4 candidates completes the training. On May 2nd, 2011, a team of 23 SEALs entered Pakistan clandestinely and killed Osama bin Laden in his fortified compound, concluding a nearly 10-year hunt. In 40 minutes, they eliminated bin Laden and guards, gathered intelligence documents, and escaped unharmed, a surgical mission that impressed the world. They also rescued Captain Phillips from Somali pirates in 2009. 3 snipers synchronized shots to kill 3 pirates simultaneously, with waves rocking the boat. But training is as brutal as the missions. The infamous Hell Week. 5 straight days without sleep, constant exercises in the cold Pacific water, carrying logs and marching in sand to forge superhuman endurance. By the end, candidates hallucinate or reach hypothermia. Despite all the firepower and technology, the SEALs' essence is primitive: absolute courage, teamwork, and surprise. They attack at dawn, emerging from water or jumping from planes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See what's next. From the Viking runes carved into Hagia Sophia by northern warriors serving Byzantine emperors to the wild cry "Awaken Iron" echoing through the Catalan mountains, and the 147 Swiss guards massacred on the steps of St. Peter's defending the Pope. These are the 12 historic special forces of Europe.